Oh, only I started recording as I see. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so let's start. So this is the Blender main UI. By the way, are you see you properly, everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the main stuff what you see. Here is this main window frame, basically, where you see the operation. This is the stuff. This is the main cube, what is just load in with this gizmo there, basically. That's called cursor. The cursor is generally a helping node, a helping pivot what use the program for certain operation. At least the first thing is what it's used to generate new objects. If I want new object, actually it will be generated there at where is the cursor, for example, as you see. But let's talk about a little bit about the windows. The windows, all the windows are extended or just making a new window. When you go to a little corner and if you see switching the cursor for this, my mouse cursor for this small crest, it shows I can make another window just like that. And it's the same as any other program. You can scale those up and down, those stuff. It can be closed down entirely, for example. And you can choose from this menu here. It's every window have all the buttons what you need for the operations, and here you can choose different modes. For example, shader editor or UV editing or image editing. So you can be totally customize your UI. The right side here, you can see the outliner. This outliner contains all the objects what you made. For example, if I made a cube, it's appearing here. Here you see a collection. This is a collection box. It contains the elements inside. You can open or close this. Also, you can open these objects, and up under that there is basically the mesh what you can edit, and also here will be the modifiers, for example, mirror or subdivision or and so on. Here you can see, oh, sorry, I made accidentally another window. That's the verse in this basically, because it's extremely hard to close this window. Oh no, another window. So basically, if you do this, oh no, another. So basically, if you do that, what I'm now, it's really hard to pick the proper place of that window to close, because you need to pick a corner, this corner, and just hold down your left mouse button, and you see while you holding down, you can close down that window, and it shows where I can close, basically up or down. And it's an interesting system. Actually, I really not big fan of this, because it's so easy to basically fuck up this, as you see, and make accidentally another window, but you don't want. But basically, if you just don't want a window, just press ESC, and it will be terminate your operation, so it don't need to continue that stuff. This is the worst of this, because very hard to find the proper place when you you can just close a window. As you see, I also have problems with to closing and opening windows. So this is the basic management of the windows, actually. The other thing is, for example, if I want to move in 3 dimensions, I can do that by this rotation. If I pressing down the middle mouse button and Alt, this will be rotated. But this is not the basic controlling. Panning is the also the middle mouse button, because in the beginning, when you install the program, it will be asked what type of control would you like to use. I choose this actually because it's mostly related to 3D Studio Max actually, and I like these controls. But if you don't like these controls, you can set up those. And I will be talk about that a little bit later, where you can set up your controls and where you can turn on the plugins, because Blender is using certain type of plugins, but basically is not open up like other 3D softwares. This is very modular system. So that's why it's so fast. When you open up, it's just like this, immediately open up. And you can basically immediately start the modeling. And you just turn on those functions what you using or you need. So again, for me is Alt, middle mouse is rotation, just middle mouse pan, and the wheel is just zooming in and out. I use this setup. You also can see here up to the right corner, this colorful stuff is basically show you the orientation in the world. So if you clicking those, you can easily switch views, and you just switch back and just rotate freely as you want. And if you lost, for example, somewhere in there, you just press home and it will be came back to your model or models. It will show your entire scene is just pop back. As you see, here are also some control units, control buttons, where you can zoom in, zoom out, basically under this, if you see. Also, here is the pan. Here is, for example, camera, but we don't have camera in the scene. And here is perspective and orthographic view switch. You know, perspective is when it's just similar to life. Orthographic view is everything is just perpendicular, and it's just a different type of view, you know. So everything is straight. Yeah. Okay, switch back. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, I mean no. Then move forward. So here up, you can see those icons at the right corner. Those helping you is this eye with this small, I say, arrow. This just help you to hide certain type of objects. If you push, for example, mesh, you don't see the meshes, for example. If you have, for example, lots of lights in the scene, you can turn off and it don't bother you. It's all that type of objects you can turn off. For you, if you just clicking this arrow, you cannot select anymore those type of objects. It's useful if you just want to working in your scene with your mesh or with your lights and so on and so on. The next one is basically this tool. If you see the left panel. Here are some tools, and this is the select tool. This has our other options, for example, select box, select circle, select lasso, as you see. And this is related especially for that. For example, you can turn on here, move, rotate, and scale. And you see in the middle where I selected an object is appearing those control gizmos, basically. Rotation, moving, scaling. I usually don't use rotation. There are also other stuffs here, but I don't want to cover right now because that's, I think, what is most important. The next one is, for example, is an important part, is the geometry part, and you can turn on the wireframe. It's just actually sometimes good if you see your geometry, how it looks like, your stuff what's working on. Basically, you should can change the opacity, but I think in this build it's not working because I'm using a data build usually. You can see also face orientation. If, for example, if you experiencing a strange glitchy shading, maybe your face is turning, it's turned. Actually, this is a quite technical stuff, but it shows you if it's blue, it's good. If it's red, your face is turned. Is, for example, turn upside down or turn outside. Sorry, and it shows you this. Okay, let's move over. That toggle. This is the X-ray. If you have more stuff in your scene, it's hard to see through your object and see what's behind. But it's more important when you're editing, you can selecting all the vertices or faces or anything what you're working on with those. Here are the next couple of buttons, just the shading. This is wireframe. It's just pretty easy to understand what is this doing actually. This is shows the wireframe. The next one is the basic shading. This is very, very basic, very flat. It's just totally normal. The other one is a little bit more complex. This should be fake HDRI shading. What's using for lighting is an HDRI map, what you can change. The fourth options is the render shading. Basically, we don't see anything right now because we don't have lights in the scene. But let's go back to the viewport shading, basically this first type of shading. You can change several things here. If you open up here, you can see these basic shading options. You can open up by clicking this little arrow button in the end of this small panel. You see this is the studio, but we can use matcaps, different type of matcaps. I don't know how familiar you are the matcaps, but basically this is a pre-burned, pre-rendered material that is used. It's not using shading properly, it's just a pre-rendered shading, basically. But it looks nice most of the time. For example, we don't need any render capacity or anything. You also can choose flat shading. And for example, in Studio Render, you can turn on cavity. For example, this is just popping out the edges and the valleys if you have. You can turn on depth of field, but I don't think it's too necessary. Turn on and off outline or colorizing your outline is how you want to see your selected object, for example. As you see now, it's green, basically, and that's it. And this is this shading stuff. Okay, here, if you change this HDRI shading, here are the settings of the HDRI. You can choose different type of HDRIs. I don't know how familiar you are the HDRI concept. Basically, this is a fully panoramic view of a room or an environment or anything. And from that, the program is computing the lighting effects and the colors. As you see here, you can see a green and blue sky and the green grass and so on. And that's what is reflecting on the materials. It's similar like in life. And you can here rotate the angles where are come from the shading and just playing with the strength and how much you see from that and how blurry this image. As you see here, we are in the field and you see it's just according from this image is the lighting. Okay, let's go back to the studio shading. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, no, then let's move forward. Let's see this left side. What are those? Those are the control elements. We can control in that. I show this lasso tool. I usually use this select lasso tool actually because it's easy to clicking or just grabbing a bunch of objects and I use, as I shown you here, turn on this move and scale and I can easily manipulate my objects as I would like, as you see. The next is the cursor. What I'm talking about is you can place now actually from the camera angle. As you see, this is just using the camera angles basically. I usually don't like this cursor stuff because it's pretty annoying stuff. If you're an old Blender user, you're using lots of operation, this helping tool. But right now, I'm rather not talking about that because I think mostly we can operate with these gizmos and it's much easier to working with. And if you're annoyed by this cursor, you can turn off actually from here, these viewport options. Here are the right corner. Here is the 3D cursor and you can turn off and you don't bother with it anymore. The next one is the move. As it said, it's moving the objects. Here is the rotation. You can rotate the object in many angles. Here are the scale, basically. You can see if you just grab these big dots in the end of that stuff, you can scaling. And here are this full gizmo, basically. And I don't want to talk about those because that's just not so important. Okay, if you want to move, actually, there are some hotkeys, for example, G for movement. And if you see in down there, you see all the hotkeys that you can use while you push down this G key. For example, Z, this is just moving in this axis, the Z axis. So you can turn on X, it's using X and so on. And you can turn on both if you press Shift, for example. I use all the axes, yeah. And after you are finished your operation, still you have time to working with your operation. Here in this bottom left corner, this is a small window appearing every operation, and you can manually scale where you want to put your stuff. It's basically is working with every tool what I showed you. It's the same way. Actually here you can set up 90 degrees and so on, whatever you want. If you click away somewhere, it's finishing the operation, or if you start another operation, it will be set up. Okay, what's happening here basically? How can I have the position, rotation, and everything from a cube, what I just basically I scaled, rotated, and so on. If you press N button, you can open up a toolbar from the right side. Actually, it's represented this small, really small arrow here, if you see. But I think it's easier if you press N button. So here you can see the location, rotation, scale, and dimension of your object, and other properties if you have, basically. Here are some align tools, what's help you aligning, but I don't talk right now about that. So here you can reset manually or change manually your stuff, or if you don't want to bother with that, you just press the backspace button and you just go through those floating on the top. I just do something and just press backspace and just going through, it will be reset everything. As you see, I also can lock certain operations, so I cannot move, just only this epsilon angle basically, or I just cannot scale in this. And if I press S, this is the scaling. It's just not scaling in this axis, as you see. So you can do that also, and it may help you. It maybe need your operation. Any questions so far? Okay, then let's move forward. Okay, so this is the basic operation of an object. How can we create an object? Basically, we have more options, but the most easy, if you press Shift A, it's open up a quick menu where is everything what you could create here. And here is the meshes, and you can choose, for example, the most basic mesh, monkey head. Yes, everyone's favorite, monkey head. It's not. I know it's not a teapot like Studio Max in the basic object, but it's almost as good. Here you can add lights. We should give a point light. And as you see, as I'm talking about this shading, what we use right now, you don't see anything from this light because it's studio shading. However, you can turn on shadows if you really want here, and it helps you to see something. Okay. I just turn back because I don't need that. If I go to shading mode, I can see. We can see the light basically. Now it's appearing. Okay, tricky question. Where I can interact with light properties. If I press N, actually, I don't find the property because there's just these operations like scale, rotation, and etc. So if you want to interact the parameters of an object, what you can working with, for example, lights, you can go to this right menu. Here you see a bunch of icons. Here is, for example, this little light bulb, this green light bulb, and if you press, you can reach the light settings. Here is the power of your light, is actually in watt, I think. Here are the color of your light, you see. And here is how affect the specular and radius. This is basically, as you see, as I'm moving, there is this orange circle. It's important later when you making your materials and lighting and everything.
Can I have a question here, actually?
Yes. Yes.
We use the shadows in the material window just to basically strengthen the shadows. Is it for just seeing it better, or does it have an actual effect on the characteristic of the light? Because we can make the light harder right here, for example, like increasing the strength or the power, but in physics, it has an effect on the shadows as well, because it casts harder shadows. But we made an adjustment in the material options as well in the beginning. So what's the difference between the two?
This is purely, if we go here, you don't see anything in these options, this viewport shading.
Yeah.
And it's just helping you a little to visualize how should it look like your model, your object. It's not affecting at all rendering. Here, in this rendering mode, you should see what you get in the final render, what you made actually.
Okay, I see. Okay, so it's two completely different things.
Yes, this viewport shading is mostly for modeling purposes. If it's not using lights, it's a general stuff to, basically for you to handling your model. It's pretty fast and fairly good. I usually use these matcaps because it's mostly look very good and helping you understand the shapes what you're working with. And it's pre-baked, as you see, it's pre-baked materials, so it's nothing affected by this light. Whatever I do with it, however I will change it, that's only for your eyes modeling purpose.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so we'll go forward. Okay, now, so if you press Shift A, you reach this menu where you can find all the tools. Meshes, basically the meshes, curves, surfaces, model, text, volume. Here you can put the reference image in the scene. You find anything and you put there basically, and it will be make for you a proper sized image and so on. So it's a pretty useful shortcut is Shift A, but you can reach this from here, from this menu, the upper right corner, this Add button, and you can do the same operation. So it will add you this. If we add the camera, for example, okay, camera. And we have another viewport here. We can switch to camera view with this. See, we see the camera right now. And here, those orange border is the frame of the camera. That is what the camera see basically. So it's how you're playing with the focal length. And as you see here in this right panel, you can see also change the icon from the light. If we are on light, we have different options and different icon, because it's this green icon is always related the object properties, not that properties where you can move this, like here, this transform operations and so. This is the object properties, and here you can change also this type of stuff. For example, orthographic camera, what we just shown. So to be clear, if I change here to orthographic, the camera will be not orthographic, just my view. Here I need to switch orthographic or panoramic or whatever what I want to use, or perspective. And here is this focal length. That's see, it's bigger, it's bigger, the distortion, but I see further and so on. If someone is familiar with that, you know how it's working. So I don't want to talking about that. Okay. I think we have two objects, a light, a camera. Let's talk a little bit about some plugins, what we should use, and preferences. How can we set up a little bit better this? So if you go up here in the menu, edit and preferences, we can find those menus what I'm talking about. Here is the interface menu. Here you can just set up how you want to see this whole program. However, what is more important for us, the key mapping, because here you can find this, for example, 3D view, how it's working, what I'm talking about, what does what. For example, spacebar actions is just, for me, I switch to tools, and it will be open up a tool menu where I can find lots of tools and lots of stuff.
Sorry, but it seems I don't see the window you are seeing.
No one see those window? Okay, I know what's the problem. Just a minute and thank you. Okay. Okay, nice, better. Now you see?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just picked in the sharing just only Blender. And Blender is just opening up, as you see, a different window. So Blender is working like this. It can open lots of different windows. So that's the preference window. Here is probably you have this interface, this from this right menu bar, what you will see. But for us, is I think is the most important, this key mapping, where you can set up your keys. If you want to know any key, what is working, here is the search bar, when you can type in, for example, move. And it will be listed for you all the operations that contains this move word, and which state it's working. For example, object mode is duplication object mode, remove from collection, so on and so on. And in the right side, it's show what shortcut it used. So if you are lost something or you need something, it's maybe good to find here what you're looking for example. But you can just search for key bindings, for example. Yeah, for example, I press A and it will be listing all the stuff with A. Shift A, and it listed all the Shift A commands in what state what will do. It's usually add. As you see in object mode, it add. Basically, it's add a new stuff or so on. Okay, this is just the configuration of key. Let's see add-ons. I just recommend, here is the add-ons part. So these are the small parts, what is generally some of it's turned on, and you see lots of things but inside Blender, and it's not turned on. So those are those plugins, but it's pretty useful in certain situation, and it's good to know if you use and so on. If you push this little button up right there is enable add-ons only, it shows all the other already turned on add-ons, and I would recommend, for example, mesh auto mirroring or mesh f2 loop tools to turn on, for example, because that's quite useful operations, and it's just extend your stuff. If you want to certain operations that you should see in a tutorial somewhere, and Blender is just don't want to do that trick, you should look here first. This may be some plugin, but it's just not turned on actually. Okay, let's move forward. Any questions for this part, maybe? Okay, no, then let's move forward. Okay, let's move the nicer part, is modeling. I will delete this, and we should use this cube for modeling. Let's switch back to this this viewport shading. I'm using this like matcap. I will turn on this matcap. Okay, so how we can modeling Blender? Basically, the modeling mode we can reach in certain ways. For example, here the up menu, you can click the modeling. However, it will be switching a completely new interface. If this we switch back to layout, it will be the basic layout what we use actually. So here are every operation have its unique layout, as you see. We can use this. This is one method. It's a more fast method. If we press tab, it will be just immediately drop you in the edit mode. Another way to reach this, just from outliner here, as I showed earlier, here are the objects in, if you see in this right up corner in our collection, here are our cube, open up, and here are the cube mesh. And if we click the cube mesh, it will be just go to edit mode. Okay, the first things what we see appearing, those dots, those are the vertices what we can modify. Here are the tools. Here are some extended tool menu in the left corner, left side. Here are these basic move, rotate, and so on. And here are some else: extrude, inset, bevel, loop cut, knife, poly build, and so on. Let's see what we can first do with this selection stuff. If I want to select everything, I can use this rectangle, or as I showed, this select lasso tool. However, if I turn on, it's not selecting everything. You see, this is not selected. It's just selected what is visible to us. On the other side, it's just not selecting. How can we overcome that? You just press A, and it will be pop up a toggle, and I just choose from those options. For example, select all. It will be select everything. If we would like to have the selection, we can turn on X-ray mode. Actually, this is Alt-Z. As I showed you before, here is this X-ray mode, as you see. And now I can select everything, even if it's behind the other side of the cube. Okay, let's just turn on. We have now this vertices. We can moving those, working with those rotates, and so on. However, there is edges and how we can change edges and face mode. Here in the left up corner, we see those small icons. The first one is active right now, it's blue. This is the vertex mode. Here is the edge mode. As you see, now I can select edges and I can working with edges, as you see. The next one is face mode, which is the alternate solution for reaching those. It's just your actually your number keys, but not the numpad, then your main numbers in the top part of your keyboard. 1 is just vertex, 2 is edge, 3 is face mode. Okay, any questions for that so far? Okay, then let's move on. Okay, now we start modeling, for example. What can we do with this? If I press S, I'm reaching scale, basically. This, as I showed here, is a general scale. And if I press G, I can move it. If I press Z, for example, I can move this angle. However, I can extrude this. How can I do? Here is extrude region, and it, as you see, I just press this button in the left side, and it will be appearing this new gizmo. And you see, I can extrude this like this way. It's pretty easy, actually. Here is operations. How can I just basically working with that? I can turn lots of types. How I would like to extrude. Now we just extrude it up like this. The next operation under that is inset face. It's just doing this, as you see. And also, if I just not release and press Control, I can make an elevation for this. You see? So again, I'm just making an inset, press Control, and I give an elevation for it. Okay, next one is bevel. Bevel is just cutting the edges of this. So if I move like this, you see the edge appearing. This is a quite interesting stuff. If we go, for example, edge mode, we can selecting edges like this. If I just hold Control and left click, that's how I can selecting those, or Shift. However, Shift is the one what is just selecting by individually, as you see. Control is a little bit different, because if I press Control and I select this, what is not continuous, not next to this, Control, as you see, it's find the way to select all the stuff but actually connect to those two edges. I don't know, is it understandable? I try to tell, show. Okay, so this is a quite useful tool, because basically you can easily select something, but sometimes it's not working, because you see it's trying to find the wrong way, because I just want to select this outer stuff, but it's just choose this path. So it's sometimes it's not working. It's just better if you just press Shift and just selecting like this. And Alt is just selection of basically a loop. If you have a straight loop, as you see, and I just hold down Alt and just clicking, it's just selecting those loops. If I press Shift and Alt and click, it's just select another loop. And that's how it's working. And if you see, we can bevel this. If you want more segment, here we can add more segment. Here we can change offset. Here we can change profile, what we would like to see, for example. And what is quite looking good if we want to use custom profiles, for example. As you see, we can add quite different profiles. If I add more segments, you will see maybe better. It's working. Okay, if I click away, the operation will be finished, and we have those nice stuff. Basically, to see, it's just Alt Shift click and I do nicely. This is some kind of monument, I don't know. Okay, what if I want to cut? There is a cut tool, actually, a loop cut and a knife. These are different tools. Loop cut you can basically reach if you press Ctrl R. And as you see, if you're not clicking anywhere, it just shows where it wants to cut if you're moving your mouse. If you click, it will be still not make the operation because you can move up and down along the edges, your cut. And if you click again, it will be finalized, but not entirely because still you have this little window when you can add different parameters for your cut. Okay, and let's try another thing with this. What's up when you have this type of edge and you I want to cut here. I press Ctrl R. Okay, and okay, but I want to cut here straight. What can I do? I press A, and you see it's appearing a yellow line, and the red point, what it shows, it try to fit in this end of the edges. If I press F, it changes and it will be using the other side of that. So that's how it's fastly I can cut straight or to another edge loop. You see? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Now let's see cut knife tool. Knife tool also reachable by key. Okay, sorry. As you see, I can cut through everything. So you see it's working differently. And when I'm done, I just press space and it's applying. See, I cut through everything. However, if I would like to cut for a straight line, I just press again key and I just cut it straight properly, snapping. I can press another button is C. As you see, it's helping me and it's just making this from my view basically. So it's aligned to my view. And I can cut like this, press space, and there is a cut. However, as you see, it's not working like loop cuts. It's not cutting through. But there is a solution for that also, because if you press key and press up here, press Z and press C, space, and it's cut through. Basically, Z key is helping you to cut all the way through. It does that. It cut everything in that slice. That's how you can cut through. So again, press key, click, press Z, and it will be cut through. You see, entirely cut through. Okay, these are the basic operation what you need to use to build something. These are the basics. There are more operations, actually modifiers, for example, mirrors or subdivision, subsurface, and so on and so on. Those are other operations what we can add from this panel. But as far as I see, we already reaching the end of our time. So I will talking a little bit in a few minutes, really basically about how to rendering this, how to change material. So here we have our model. Now in that window, I turn on viewport shading to see our material, and here in the left side, I turn on shader editor, and if it should be appearing, I don't know what's happening. Ah, okay, sorry. Yes, so in the shader editor, there is no material because we don't assign any material. We can assign here to the object in the right side panel. If you see this red ball icon, this is the materials. And here with this plus new, we can add the new material. Here we can edit this material, and also here are shader editor when we can add texture and so on. And other node-based features for that. This material output basically is the output what we see. Here we don't see that, and that's how we can connect those two nodes. You just grab this dot and just move there. Here are the basic, the color, for example. Here are metallicity, how metallic is the object. Here are the specular, but right now we will not see too much. Here are the roughness, is how matte or how shiny our object. This is a BSDF material. This is a basic material for everything. This is a general type of material, and it have been lots of options. For example, emissive, how it's glowing actually. However, we cannot hear different types of materials. For example, if here also, if you remember, Shift A is the add, and here is you can add all the nodes. Here is the search bar and emission, and I just add a pure emission material. It's just a light material. Basically, I can turn up the strength and turn down and so on. And that's how it's work. It's really, really the basic. And when you want to render, just press F 12, 12 az mi? 12?
Oh, it is. Yep.
Okay. And let's open your render window and it's render out. Okay, just quickly because our time is running out. Two type of renderers we use using Eevee and Cycle. Here in the right panel, you can click render properties. This is this camera icon, and in the right up corner, here you see is Eevee is set up. This is a real time. It's basically a game engine, actually. Or similar as a game engine, and here you can choose Cycle. Cycle is a proper ray tracing engine, and if you press 11, you see it's just started this ray tracing stuff actually. So this small dots is just going through and rendering out your stuff, as you see, but you see here are those small dots and everything. And if we have a next session, I will show how properly set up materials, how properly set up lights and rendering and some compositing tricks, for example, how to deal with this noise. So I'm sorry we have only that much time. Actually, after, if anyone can stay or have questions, now is the time to ask.
Thanks so much, Balazs. It was extremely useful and helpful, especially for me because this is the first time I start using Blender, actually. A question, do we plan to do more sessions of this, like basic stuff in Blender and people can just turn on Blender and doing in parallel or stuff like that, or it was only a one-time session on your side?
Yes, if anybody interested about that, we can do that. For example, we modeling some easy stuff, for example, a toy car or just something, what we, for example, a part of a building, maybe a statue, monument, for example, and I can show the sculpting capabilities of Blender, for example.
It would be
definitely would be a nice thing.
yeah.
If you have ideas, just write me down and I will be try to show those. Actually, those parts just only what I know because I'm still also a beginner.
Sounds great. Cool. Thanks so much. I need to drop off and let you guys answer the rest of the questions.
Okay.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So there will be a next session, continuation from this presentation, right?
Yeah. Yes, if you would like, and if you think it's
definitely
useful, yes.
This was really useful, at least for me.
Yes, please. It's amazing. I love that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, guys, any other questions maybe? But really
yes, a quick one. But I'm not sure if it's applying, as you mentioned that you're more like a beginner in this. I wanted to ask if you only used this version because it seems to be version 2.80 something, 283 if I'm right, according to the bottom right corner. And to me, it seemed that they changed the UI very much in 280 or around that. And I wanted to ask if you know, is that the only difference and how big the difference is if you worked with versions before, because I haven't tried this new one yet and I did not dare to try it because it seemed to be too different.
But now, as I explained, do you dare to try?
I think I will.
Okay, so I think it's a very marginal differences between 2.7 and before and after 2.8, because 2.8 is just revamped, totally revamped. It's just added lots of cool features. As you see, it's much easier, much cleaner, the UI, and it's just this window management. What I showed, it's hard to close a window. That's my only bug, actually, what is bugging me. But all the other things, I think, is much easier and more user-friendly. As you see, the colorization of the icons, it's much cleaner, and everything what you would like, almost everything, you can add a short key, hotkey, and you can customize basically through properties. And if you hovering over something, you will have some tooltip. For example, is spacebar S shortcut, transform, spacebar T, and so on. And if I just okay, I just quickly go into edit mode, and as I showed you, I am edit mode now. I just selecting those. It just okay. It just show down, as you see. If I started to moving this in the down part, I don't know. You see, it's just all the hotkeys, and it just tell what I can use. For example, if I press C, Okay, just not working. I don't know why. Anyway, it's just showing all the stuff. If I press, for example, epsilon, it's just moving in epsilon direction. If I press E and so on. So and it's listed there. So it's helping you to learn this. Okay, am I?
Thank you. Yes, it was visible and clear. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a suggestion. If we eventually get back to the office, we could do these in the office as well. I don't know, Fridays afternoon, because I think it's easier, because if I'm not mistaken, Blend is a free tool, right?
Yes.
So we could continue this in the office as well.
Yes, of course.
It's more on hands approach, to be honest.
And what do you think? What would be why would be better if we continuing person?
I don't know. We can start on some smaller project ourselves, and if we are stuck at some specific point, everybody can help out each other.
Yeah, I think so. But
you are talking about a workshop.
Something like that, yeah. If anybody is up to it.
Yeah, as we said it before. Yeah, I mean, like Balázs mentioned before, like that modeling a car or something, like
yeah, exactly.
from the cube. I'm interested in that. How you make something from the cube?
Yeah,
you make it out of more cubes.
Yeah. So okay, next time still we could move forward with lighting and everything, and we can discuss it later. What should we covering in next time.
Sure.
Any other questions with related these operations or anything? What I showed?
I have one. You use the cut tool to.
Yes.
That's basically just making new edges, not actually cutting the mesh. Right?
No, it's not cutting, but actually there are other operations what I don't show. For example, if you have 2 points, you can join. Actually, there is actually, I'm sorry, is J. And
Okay.
this J is just joining it, those. However, if I press F, it's basically interesting because it's making a small plane between those two. You don't see it, but believe me, it's there. It's just a 2-point plane. So if you basically, if you just if I clicking through this, clicking through this, and I press F, it will be making a plane, but actually I don't think it's quite useful because you see, it's a plane.
Okay.
It made a plane because it will be still connected to those. If you want to separate those, actually that's a different operation.
Okay, but that's possible.
Yeah, it's possible actually. If you see, for example, if I go here, X is basically another tool when it can help you delete parts, and there's different type of deletion, delete and dissolve. In this case, we want to delete this face. I press delete, but you see here is delete the related faces. So I don't say that. I say dissolve delete face. Sorry. And now it's just deleting those faces. So it's easy to break your mesh. However, when you have this and you go to edge mode, you can F and it's just making a new face.
Okay.
That's easy.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? Let's see what's happening if we just cutting here right now quickly something, and I don't need this. If I press X and I set delete edges, oh shit, it deleted, you see all the faces and everything, so it's not good. If you press X and dissolve edges. It just dissolving the edges, and along with that, the points also. So these are small tricks.
Can you cut it in half? I mean, no, currently the mesh is one single object
Yes.
under cube. Can you make it two? Like that. I want the monument to be in two parts, so I don't know. I can break it or whatever.
It can be that. Actually, I cannot answer that because I don't do this type of operation so far.
Okay.
I will looking after that how you can do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? Okay, if there is none, I will close the session, and I'm waiting for you, from your reviews what you think I should change in the this presentations. For example, what I shouldn't talk about much, what I should talk more, and what would be the next topic, what we should pick for next topic. Okay, and thank you to come and listening me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
You.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.